Hi, Roy Stone here with Gemstone Magic, and I'd like to take just another moment and share with you one of our fine products. This is our Mismade Mummy, just in time for those Halloween shows or just comedy kid shows. It's a great, fun product. I'd like to tell you a story that happened when I was just a boy. It was midwinter, and my school had planned a trip to the museum. The museum had a new exhibit of artifacts and sarcophagus and mummies, all from Egypt. I was so excited. I was so excited that I went to the library and I checked out a book all about mummies and how they did it and everything. It was kind of gross. They took all the inside icky stuff out and put that in jars, and they even pulled the brain out through the nose. Oh, yuck, the brain was nasty and gross. But yet it was still so fascinating how they did it. And then they wrapped the body up and put oil and salt and seasonings on it. Kind of reminds me of cooking Thanksgiving dinner, wrapping the turkey up and putting oils and stuff on it. But it wasn't a turkey, it was a mummy. So I rushed and got dressed for school the day of the trip. I went out and got on the bus and we rode to school. And when I got there, I met up with my friend Tom. He was my best friend, and we sat in the seat on the bus, and we traveled downtown to the museum, and we were so excited to see all the Egyptian artifacts. We got to the museum, and as we walked in, we saw all these exhibits in different rooms with different artifacts from Egypt. There was one that had a boy mummy. He was a boy about 9 years old, and he had been Pharaoh. Could you imagine being king at 9? They had all kinds of jewels and gold and things they had found in his tomb. It was so exciting. Well, as we walked on, each at our own pace, reading the signs and stuff, Tom noticed another room. He gave me the elbow and said, "Look back there." And we looked, and there was a big red rope roping off this room. He gave me that look, and I knew that look. That look was one of those let's go check it out kind of looks. So we kind of snuck away from the group that we were with, and we went back to this room. We looked in, and when we looked, we saw a big gold sarcophagus. And the rope was keeping you back from going in that room. Tom looked at me, and I looked at Tom. We both nodded and accidentally slipped under that rope. We did. When we got in there, we saw the great sarcophagus there, and on it was a sign, and it told who it was and everything about it, and said that this queen had lived thousands of years ago and how her mummy was found and all that. And then I noticed over in the other corner was another coffin. This one wasn't gold, and it wasn't elaborate. It was just kind of an old rough wooden coffin. So we went over there and we looked at it, and as we got close, we noticed that there were hieroglyphs. That's Egyptian writing, and it was written on the top. Somebody had carved these hieroglyphs in it. And then there was an area that you couldn't quite read. It was dark in that area. It wasn't lit up real bright, so we couldn't quite tell what it was. So we got closer and trying to figure it out, and about that time, the smell hit us. There was a crack in the lid where the lid was just a little bit tilted, and the smell of the rotten mummy came from, oh man, it hit me right in the face. And I stumbled backwards and bumped into Tom, and he said, "Did you see it? Did you see anything in there?" I said, "I don't know, it was too dark." He said, "You know, the lid's open a little bit." I said, "Yeah, if you help me, maybe we can push it open and we can see what's inside." So we did just that. We pushed the lid. It was heavy, but we pushed it and looked inside. We looked down, and as I looked, I saw the mummy. It was laying there all wrapped up, dried up looking. And as I looked in, that's when it happened. The scariest thing that ever happened in my life. The mummy's eyes opened, and it reached up to grab me, and it freaked me out, and I jumped backwards, and when I did, I almost knocked a sign over. Oh, it was so frightening. I caught my breath and realized I must have just imagined it. So we walked over to the sign and we looked, And the sign told who it was. Said it was one of the servants of the queen. But this servant had done something really bad. Something deserving of a death punishment. They had mummified him while he was still alive. And buried him in this wooden coffin. And then it said that the other lettering on the sarcophagus was a mummy's curse. And that whoever disturbed that mummy would have eternal torment. Oh, that freaked me out. And I looked at Tom and I said, Tom, we better close the coffin. So we went back and we started to close the coffin, and the smell was so bad. And it scared us so bad that we accidentally pushed the coffin over. The mummy rolled out and the head came off, and the head rolled down the aisle or the floor of the room. Oh, we were so frightened, but we went chasing after the head to put it back before we would get caught. Well, we went over there and we got the head, and I picked up the head, and about that time we heard voices coming down the hall. It was one of the teachers and another kid looking at the exhibits walking down the hall. What are we going to do? Tom said. I said, I don't know. We've got this head. And Tom said, oh, wait a minute. Here's one of those Egyptian boxes. Maybe we could put it in there. So that's exactly what we did. He opened the lid, and I tossed the head in just like that. And then we skedaddled out of there and acted like nothing was wrong. And we were just looking at the exhibits. The teacher had walked by, her and the other student, just looking at the exhibits and didn't notice us. Oh, thank goodness. But I said, Tom, we better get the head and we better put it back. We better put everything back just like we found it, because we don't want to get caught in that mummy's curse. So we went back in there and we opened the box where the head had been, and it was gone. The mummy's head was gone. What are we going to do now? The mummy has no head, and if one of the museum curators come by, we'll be in deep trouble. And that's when Tom had the great idea. He said, there's all these statues and busts and carvings of heads. Maybe we can take one of these heads, these carvings, and put it in there with the mummy, and nobody will ever know. So we did just that. We took the head and we went back to the coffin to put it there. And we got the coffin back up on its stand. He and I, it was heavy. And then when we went to put the mummy back in the case, we looked, and the mummy was there. It was already back. And so was its head. Don't know how it happened. I think our imagination just really got away from us, and we just imagined the whole thing. Oh, we snuck out of there, and we running back to the rest of the crowd. Well, that night, I got home, thinking about all the things that had transpired and realizing how bad my imagination got away from me. So I crawled into bed and I pulled up the covers and fell fast asleep. But that night I had a horrible nightmare. I dreamed somebody was in the room with me. Somebody standing over in the corner watching me as I slept with big, red, glowing eyes. Oh, it was so frightening that I sat right up in bed and I looked, and there was no one there. A cold chill ran down my spine. That's when I realized the window was half open. I must have left the window open. Oh, well, I jumped out of bed and went to the window to close it, and that's when I noticed toilet paper hanging from my windowsill. What was that doing there? Well, I reached out to grab it so I could take it down and throw it away, and that's when I realized, oh, it couldn't be. I slammed the window shut, and I ran all the way back to bed, and I pulled up the covers and shivering and fear and cold, because what I felt wasn't toilet paper. It was cloth, the kind of cloth linen that you found on a mummy. And that was the night that I found out about the mummy's curse. That's our mismade, and that's our Forgetful Mummy. Great for your Halloween shows and or just a fun comedy show or birthday party. Get yours at jamstonemagic.com or find us on Facebook.